This ancient king, Hammurabi, ruled over Babylon from 1792 to 1750 BC. At the beginning of his reign, Mesopotamia was divided into many city-states, all with their own pattern of shifting rules. But Hammurabi eventually brought the entire region under his control. He collected laws from the various city-states and wrote down a set of codes that soon governed the entire area. Hammurabi's written code allowed law to be a matter of public knowledge and so helped advance the rule of law in society. His code dealt with issues of taxes and trade, marriage and divorce, and theft and murder. He assigned specific punishments to fit specific crimes. Hammurabi's empire eventually fell apart, but he's credited with establishing justice in the land.
Imagine your father, the man that you love and trust, the man that you expect to protect you for the rest of your life. But instead, he comes home every night abusing you. You're going out every day with a new bruise. But him, not a scratch, no pain, no guilt. One day you just had enough of all the suffering, pain, headaches, and tears that you finally decided to strike him back, but only for you to end up as the bad guy and him as the victim. You get your hands cut off because of Hammurabi's so-called fair laws, and you can't do anything about it after all those years of the pain and suffering that he's put you through. Does that seem fair? We will expose the unfairness of Hammurabi's code of law.
Another flaw of Hammurabi's code was how excessive the punishments were. And one entry that proves this is in Law 129, where it states, if a married woman is caught cheating, the woman and the man will be thrown into the river. This is an excessive punishment because yes, cheating is bad, but does it have to constitute for murder? I'd also like to point out that Code 110, if a holy woman opens a tavern door or enters a tavern for a drink, she shall be burned to death. I wanted to point this out because if a holy man was to open a tavern door or come for a drink, it would be fair. But if a holy woman was to do it, it wouldn't. Why is that? Because not only is the punishment for this law excessive, it's also sexist. The punishment for this crime is objectively over the top. Come to your senses.
Hammurabi's code was unjust because it did not take into consideration of everyone's story. Take, for example, Law 133. If a man is taken prisoner in the war and there's enough sustenance in the house, but the wife leaves to go to another house, and because she did not keep her vow, she shall be judicially condemned and thrown into the water. Not only is that harsh, but it also shows how the wife, she has her right to leave the house. We don't even know her point of view of why she left. She could just left to meet her mother or friends. Put yourself in the wife's shoes. Do you think you should be thrown in the water just for meeting a family member or friend? No, right?
Hammurabi's code of laws was fair because it was a reminder to those who decided to do a certain crime would definitely face consequences. Also, it benefited the people of Mesopotamia by connecting the city-states together through those laws. Don't you think the leaders of this modern world do that now with their laws? So it's not only considered fair to the people, but the leader himself.
Hammurabi's code is fair because in Hammurabi's time, Hammurabi made the code, but he said to his people that the code was made by gods. This makes the code very fair because people back then were very religious. So they believed it couldn't be arguable or against it.
Hammurabi's codes were unjust, unfair, and inconsistent. If somebody got robbed and they started to feel angry because they got robbed and their stuff was missing, they might feel some sort of grief, and you might think that's fair that the person that robbed them was punished. But think about if somebody just lost a family member for some unfair reason due to Hammurabi's code of laws. Think about how much pain and anger they would feel. Tell me, is that justice? Is that justice?
And how the opposing team is ignoring the fact that just because something is based off of religion doesn't necessarily make it fair. If a religion were to say to kill a child if they were born with a defect, would that suddenly make it fair? No, because religions aren't the basis for morality and fairness. Chris said about how it connected the city-states, I feel as though you didn't provide any evidence for that, and if you did, then that evidence wasn't really clear to me.
The opposing team over here doesn't realize that you cannot please everyone. Maybe if they were the majority and everybody did not really agree with his code, you would have been seeing riots and stuff to overthrow Hammurabi.
As you listen to all the points raised, you can and you will realize how corrupt and unjust Hammurabi's codes were. Multiple rules expose the vile and cruel nature of Hammurabi's codes, from violently punishing people that had nothing to do with their crime to inconsistent punishments. Hammurabi's codes were unfair. Any reasonable person can agree and realize how unfair Hammurabi's codes were.
I walk up to you and I stab you in the eye. What are you gonna do? I know what I would have done. I would have stabbed them back. But in today's generation, you could have never done that. But in Hammurabi's generation, you could have brought up an eye for an eye, which is a code of law, which is very fair, because whatever you do will always come back to you. Think about it. Some of Hammurabi's laws are still lasting even today. And today is why we're going to show you why Hammurabi were fair and led to a successful empire.
Hammurabi's code of laws was unfair and unjust because the punishments were very hard and often involved innocent people. For example, Hammurabi's law 229 states that if someone builds a house but is not constructed properly, if the house falls and kills the owner's son, the builder's son shall die. This proves that Hammurabi's laws were unfair because the son had nothing to do with the incident, showing that they were innocently put to death. Hammurabi's code of laws were cruel and harsh, and sometimes only applied to slaves or women, but didn't apply to men at all. This proves that his laws were sometimes against women, making his code of laws cruel, unjust, and unfair for his empire.
Hammurabi's laws were inspired by God. You can never go wrong with God.
Hammurabi code was unfair because it had people getting killed for crimes that they did by mistake. Let's say, so you know how they say a robber gets killed for attempting to steal something, but the thing is, he didn't steal anything yet, so then what's the point of killing him? You might say, oh, he's a robber, it's fair, but it's not, because he's getting killed. Even though he didn't steal anything yet, he attempted to. You could have just put him to jail. Another evidence is that you have a woman cheating on her husband with another man. They both should be tied up and thrown to the water. But divorce is an option. You could have just divorced her and let it be. They didn't have to kill both of them and tie them up to water and just throw them in there.
Mariah, you said that people were getting killed for doing things on accident. For example, you said someone was stealing and yeah, they got caught and then whatever. Isn't that attempted robbery? They just got caught in the act of doing something that they're not supposed to be doing. And assuming that they know the laws, that it literally displayed in that kingdom, they should have never done it in the first place. So they knew what was coming for them.
Jaden, you said that if a builder builds upon a house and messes the house up and collapses on the owner's son dies. Isn't that eye for eye? That's fair, because if you lose your son because someone didn't do the job correctly, wouldn't you want them to feel the same pain that you did?
Even if you do not like the laws that Hammurabi had provided for his empire, they still led to a successful and very stable empire. Back in Hammurabi's time, the point was to stay alive and stay very healthy. And that is exactly what he did.
Some people thought his code were not fair because it contained cruel punishments. But right now, my team will not only prove all of that wrong, but also highlight the fact that Hammurabi's code is a great example, because it ensured that anyone, not only just the rich and powerful, but even the poor, men or women, could obtain the justice they deserve.
Imagine living in a place where you're scared to be somewhere only because you're afraid that whatever you do, you might get an unfair punishment, and having no opportunity to get fair justice, or that it might even happen to your own family. That's how the people of Babylonian Empire felt while under the control of Hammurabi and his rules.
The laws apply to everyone, a child, man, and a woman. Both the wife and the man shall get punished. One does not get punished. They both shall be punished as an equal. If an adopted son says to his adopted mother or father, "You're not my mother, you're not my father," his tongue shall be cut off. This rule is fair because you're being selfish. They adopted you as their own, and this is how you repay them. Just think about it. The laws apply to everyone. no matter what age you are. No one is above the law.
The rules of fair since they handle with treatment, unfairness, and violence. Think about it. If you catch someone that you know or not committing incest with his daughter, would you still want him to live among you guys, knowing that if he does that with his daughter, he may be able to do it with other young girls? This rule is fair because if a man gets caught doing sexual activity as an older citizen, he shall be able to control himself. Also, back in these times, ladies were not treated fairly, so usually they would be the one getting punished for actions done towards them. Although the Babylonians kept slaves, they too had rights. Most leaders had many slaves among them, but not many fought for slaves' freedom.
The Babylonians were mistreated and assaulted by men, but the laws also failed to protect them from the abuse. Instead of protecting them, they provoked the abuse. Hammurabi's Code, Law 209, states if a man strikes a woman in her stomach and it causes her to lose her baby, the man has to pay 10 shekels of silver. This shows how that's pretty much as paying for a child at that point. How does that work? Only 10 shekels when she didn't ask for her baby to get taken away from her.
Hammurabi's Code Law 110 says, if a holy woman opens a tavern door and enters a tavern for a drink, she shall be burned to death. This law is explaining that if a lady tries to get a drink from a tavern, she will be brutally burned and killed. Now think about that. Is that fair?
These rules are fair because if the accuser is trying to frame somebody but couldn't find evidence to frame the person, they're going to be put to death, and that's an easy way to catch them. Our opponents claim that Hammurabi's rules/codes are unfair because his rules was made for a purpose, to keep his empire safe from danger and crime.
These punishments and beliefs of the people were often harsh, overbearing, demanding, and overall cruel.
You should be able to see from all these claims that Hammurabi Code of Conduct is fair. Not only do they give many people freedom, it also brings peace and order to the village. Although most of these punishments feel harsh or sound harsh, if it was to happen to you, think about it. Are these punishments fair? On March of 2022, a woman got sentenced to 25 years in prison for self-defense. Is that fair to you? Hammurabi's Code would at least let the woman testify against the situation. Although most people think his codes are unfair because of higher and lower class differences. Most codes are based on guilt, disgrace, and responsibility.